What's up, YouTube? What's up, YouTube? It's your boy back with another one. People, in today's video, we want to discuss the new form of discrimination, and that is classism, not racism. That is now the new form of discrimination. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know, we family, right? Holler. People, I'm now realizing, right, that South Africa does not have a race problem anymore. It has morphed into a financial problem. Now, obviously, finances are tied to race and have always been tied to race, right? And that will always be the case. Things could change and things should change because, to be honest, for the longest of time, all the wealth, all the finances have always been in the hands of a few, right? The economy is currently in the hands of a few, right? The disproportionate amounts of income and wages and salaries and whatever else you want to call it, right? All go to a minority few, right? There is there is a certain class of people that own the majority of the means of production. And to be very honest with you, it's not only white people. Although white people might make up the bulk of that minority group that owns the means of production, there are rich black people that are also now owning a good proportion of the means of production. And this is clearly evident in the BEE statuses. You can see that BEE was initially designed to redress the imbalances of the past. But now BEE has now morphed to enrich a select few. And it's those select few that are now in the same class as the rich select few that controlled the means of production before the introduction of BEE. So, going forward, we cannot now look at rich white people and say, oh, they own the country, oh, they have all the money, they have no. Because now we have a class of black people that are now in the same league as the very white people that we look at and say, like, whoa, these people own everything. No, they don't. They still do own a majority of things, but there's also a good number of black people that have been elevated to that status. So we've been looking at people like Makima Kasuma, people like Ramaphosa, people like Edwin Sodi, people like who else? Who's the big Patrice Motsepe, Jeff Khadebe, Jeff Khadebe's wife, you know, what's his name, Trevor Manuel, and his wife also. At some point, I think she was voted one of the richest, if not the richest woman in South Africa at some point. And then there was that Applebaum lady. She was then voted also the richest lady in South Africa at some point. So you can see that it's now diversifying. These people are now elevated to those higher echelons of the income bracket, right? So we cannot look at it from a race point of view. Now it's a class point of view. So South Africa is now slowly moving away from the racial dynamics, moving to the class dynamics, right? How is it possible now to close the gap between the classes now? Because, like we said, we fought racism, we've overcome racism, not in the physical sense, but theoretically, we have. On paper, yes, we have. South Africa is known as a rainbow nation, the country that defeated apartheid and all that. We are now seen in rugby matches as a united nation. We are now seen in various ways, right? And it's a good thing. You know what I mean? But now that this new class of rich, super rich, is emerging or has emerged, and it's The same group of people that push certain narratives to the detriment of the majority, right? My question is simple. To these people that have been elevated to the top, to the upper echelons, what are they doing for the people at the bottom? I mean, we could understand in the past, right? White people gave a kid for black or colored people, so they had to be left at the bottom. Now we have our own people that have been ushered into this new world of financial power, this new haven, as it may be, of financial success, right? What are they doing for the people at the bottom? Have you heard, have you seen anything that anyone from these new elites doing in your area? Do you know of any scheme that they have that benefits the poor at a low rate that doesn't require financial profit to their end? There's something that actually benefits the poor. Have you seen anything like that that you can say, oh, Saki Makazoma is doing this, or what's his name, the guy from MTN, Pucci something. I can't remember his surname now, Mchlek or something like that. He used to be the head of MTN at some point. What are these people doing for the poor people in Soweto, Kailicha, Langa, Mitchell's Plain, Westbury, Atlantis? What are people doing for those people? Now I can understand totally that if you have a a Zulu person who's not doing anything in the colored community, it's totally fine, totally get it. But when you have a colored person that's at the top of the echelon, right, and that person is not doing anything for the colored community, then that's an issue. I would think that at some point the colored people would actually look at that as a litmus test for these people and hold them accountable to say, we put you in power at some point when you had a political something. Today you are well connected in business. What is that all about? Are you forgetting where you're coming from? What are you doing for the people now? It's sad that we have to be having such conversations that our own people are leaving us behind, right? It's sad that people start projects, elevate themselves, or get help to a certain point that lets them shoot past the stratosphere, and they go at it with their friends and they forget the very people that voted them into power when they still had political careers, just to say from the get-go, right? Who in his right frame of mind, like Nelson Mandela went to prison, and when he came out, he was he was one with the people. He he tried his best to bring his people along. He went along even if he didn't entirely do what he aimed to do. But at least Mandela was on the ground with the people, for the people. And it's said that the new generation of politicians after Nelson Mandela have just been all about themselves. Now they've created a certain class that's exclusively just for the elite. So if you're not trying to elevate yourself into this class, that means you as an ordinary South African is going to be left behind for the rest of your life. So with the BEE, because from what I understand, right, BEE was actually created to integrate, to redress the imbalances of the past, of which they started, rightfully so, with the military and the police force, right? And then they decided to move it into business as well and into almost every sector of society. But it hasn't permeated down to every sector of society. It just stopped at business. Now, of course, the boardrooms have to change. Yes, they want white ownership, they want black participation in the economy. True, I get it. True, true, true. I mean, I'm also with that. There must be black participation at the highest levels in every company. But the way they're going about it and the implementations, I totally disagree with. Right? But the notion, I'm all on board with it. I'm not on board with the whole 30% story. I'm not with that, right? But I do feel like there should be at least, some sort of collaboration, some sort of skills transfer, some sort of um, some sort of joint venture uh, piece to it or side to it. Because at the end of the day, I think that it's totally unfair that someone who didn't even have a say in starting a business can just come in and just be given 30% equity in such a business. I don't think that is fair, to be honest. But it's that very 30% that has now created a class that is now flying high, way above the rest of the country. And that has now become a problem. Now, a lot of these BE guys are benefiting from tenders. There's obviously infighting, there's obviously insider information, there's obviously corrupt officials, there's obviously backhanded tactics that's going on that has created this class of rich black people. And by black, I'm also including colored because there are a few colored businessmen that are also have been elevated to this BE status. So out goes the race question. In comes the class question now. So now, since we're moving away from race and we're now moving to class, does this mean that race based politics or race based business ethics is now a thing of the past, or is it going to be a thing of the past? And we're now just going to be simply dealing with a class based system or a financial based system. So if you do not have money and you do not have a healthy bank balance, does this mean you are now totally being cut off from participation in the economy and you'll be now subjected to the annals of employment? Because now the sadness of this whole thing is that we are now creating a class of people that is so far removed from the realities of which they have come from. I do understand that as a person who's given an opportunity, you want to see the best for yourself and your family and your loved ones to be propelled into prosperity. And I totally get that, right? From an individual perspective. I totally get it. But I feel like in this BEE status thing, that anyone given a 30% stake in a international company should take 10% that must be allocated to either the city they come, the township they come from, so they too can be elevated, even if it's not, even if it's not um, a financial reward. At least it's got to be the upgrading of the townships, the eradication of that township's shacks. There has to be some sort that 30% must be put towards 10% towards the upgrading of a township where that person who's been allocated the 30% in a company should be given 10% that must be allocated to the improvement of the township where that person comes from, or the home area, the rural area where that person comes from. I think that would be a fair trade-off. And that is what I feel should be pushed. That's the narrative that should be pushed by government, because everyone is only focusing on getting the 30% and nothing is left for the societies from which these people come from. And it's those very people that are left really from the success of BEE that leaves them behind totally. For example, If you look at Jacob Zuma's Kandla residence, Kandla is situated in a rural area, surrounded by poverty people, of which from what I'm understanding, sometimes he hosts parties and he hosts some sort of like a food drive or something like that. But why would you? I understand totally that he's from Kandla, and by all means, you can go there and set up your mansion like he did. But why would you only uplift yourself and everyone else around you is living in huts and shacks? I mean, what does that say about you as a leader? Are you not supposed to at least say, I'm going to uplift the people in my area, do away with the houses and with these shacks, do away with the huts, and help them build real structural houses with electricity, like how he did for himself? I mean, how much did Nkandla cost? Couldn't he have scaled down and used maybe a quarter of that money to upgrade the very people, the neighbors around him? Couldn't that have been a more logical sense? I don't, I don't, I don't have words. Sometimes I just feel aggravated by people of color when they reach a certain class or they reach a certain level, and then they feel like they no longer belong to this group of people where they come from, and now they feel that they are now part of a new group or a new race, and they now see themselves in that light. Like the saying goes, the higher you go, the more your English tone becomes more defined, refined, and your mother tongue slips down the drain. Even your attitude slips, even your demeanor, it changes. You stop being black, you stop being colored, you start seeing yourself as the other. Even you can see the higher these people go in power and offices, the less they date or marry people of their own races. You could see that with Kofi Annan. You could see that with a lot of actors and actresses. You know what I mean? As they go up the echelons, that's not to say that you are not entitled to your own preferences, right? It just shows you that some people, the higher up the rung of the ladder they go, the more far removed from reality or their reality they become. And that said, that BE has now created a class of people who have become so removed from their realities that they have forgotten the people that have put them in those positions to get to where they are today. That's my story for today. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla.